as we know that when we're doing the Tai Chi in the form for exercise, again, the Grand Ultimate Fist, it is one of our many styles of Shaolin Kung Fu. And so when we're doing the martial applications in the future, once you guys memorize the form, you certify and test over your Tai Chi, it's time to move on to what we call the sticky hand sparring and push hands sensitivity training, where we're learning how to follow our partners with the proper mechanics of Tai Chi that we've taught you, but also learning how to what we call stick to your partner. And the push hands, again, touching with that one arm, whereas the sticky hand sparring has the two hands instead. And so touching your partner again and learning how to stand right in front of your opponent and throw strikes as well as evade the strikes. So when your partner goes to strike at you, learning how to yield and then return the strikes. So there are, as we mentioned, and as you see, as he strikes, there are shoulder strikes in the Tai Chi. There are also captures and locks as well too in the Tai Chi. Okay, there are so many different ways to lock and break the elbows or the wrists and things like that as well too, as we capture and take our opponents down. So many different ways to lock and capture our opponents. So many ways to press and pin the partners to the ground. So a lot of grappling and what we call chin na. And we also have, of course, some of the other aspects of down and ground fighting, where our opponent is getting taken down to the floor with sweeps and hooking the legs, right? So a lot of ways to take our opponents to the floor. We're also learning sensitivity of when our partner goes in to strike at us and we're yielding and using the opponent's force against them. We also have, as we know, 2 elbow strikes. So we're yielding opponent strikes, learning how to slip the punches. We're also doing it blindfold. So that when our partner goes to hit at us, we're yielding. He strikes and yields, strike and yield. So you stand there in front of your opponent while they strike and hit you, trying to find your center, and you're avoiding all the different techniques, learning how to match your opponent, but at the same time not staying away from them, but being right on top of them. So that when they go to hit you again, you're not there. You're learning the sensitivity and relaxation, and then following again with your own strikes, whether it's with the shoulders. As we know, the Tai Chi comes from the movements of the snake. Snake has no arms or legs, no limbs. So learning to be evasive and relaxing and yielding. And it also comes from the movements of the crane. So we see that a lot of times when our partners go to strike at us, we yield and we turn, and then we follow with a strike and a hit, hitting into our opponent, striking and hitting. So in the class, we push so that you work on your yielding, but you're rooting, so that you're not falling into your positions, so that you're not overpowering your opponent, but you're learning how to go with the opponent. So if your opponent insists on coming in and pressing in on you, learning again how to use that force against them. If your opponent avoids the blows, learning how to follow, and send your partner wherever it is they want to go. So when we have Sawyer yielding, he's going this way then, and you follow your partner. Right? If he strikes in this way and we go to trap his elbow, he yields that elbow. We turn and we follow it wherever it might go. Wherever he goes, I go. And then when you find that position and you find their center, you find their vulnerability, that's when you strike. So you don't insist when you go to capture a lock. If he escapes it at that point, you elbow and strike. Okay? If he yields to the strike, then find another position, an elbow. If he yields to that, find a shoulder. Okay? We also have, as we know too, in the Tai Chi, which again are very, very important movements. Tai Chi masters were known for as well too. They're hip strikes as well too. So hip striking in. We've got leg traps. Okay? We've got all kinds of different techniques and maneuvers. But the most important thing Tai Chi brings to the table is its ability to read the opponent, so that when your opponent goes to strike at you, you're not there. Okay? So instead of staying where he might hit you, learning how to yield that force so that you're just out of range. And the more the force builds up on you, the more you use it to your advantage, whether it's hands playing the guitar, or whether it's fair maiden working the shuttles, or whether it's brushing the knee and pressing it. So fair maiden, work the shuttles. Okay, so capturing, pressing. And so again, a lot of different ways to use the Tai Chi, and learning how to not insist that your strike get through, but when you feel that pressure and yield, relax and strike it and hit it. Or again, you feel that pressure, yield with it and bring it in. So whether it's a rollback technique, which brings him down and in, okay, or whether it's a withdrawal technique, which allows your partner, as he strikes at you, to become vulnerable, or whether it's following your partner back out and pushing your partner for now to push. In other words, when we do our pushing, we want to make sure first off that we can get him. If we push and he doesn't move, you didn't really get him. You're too far away. But if you're here and you push him back a foot or two, a step or two, if you can push him off the root, then your strike penetrated and it got in. So when he goes to strike you, it's not enough to touch. He has to be able to move you. And if he can't move you off your root, then you avoided that blow. Or as he pushes through, you yield the blow. And trying to do it without forcing his hand away, without blocking and striking. The less you block and the less you deflect, the more as he pushes at you, the more you have your hands free to be striking and hitting. And just like water envelops the container that is in, when that strike comes in, you are the water, and now you are the one who's enveloping, and you're learning how to slip through his defenses. So when he goes to push that arm out of the way, you follow, right, with another part of your arm. He pushes that arm down and away, you move inside, and now you're inside here. And again, all you're doing now is just taking over his space. So when he moves out of the way, take over his space, right? And suddenly you've got them at that point. Okay, and then don't be afraid of the hands touching you and striking at you. Right? Because that is the whole point. We've taught you or are teaching you guys how to learn how to yield and avoid the strikes. So while he touches our face, we have no worries. We don't have to block it and get it away. Because as he goes to strike and hit, you yield out of the way. We want him leaning and moving in so we can lock those elbows, so we can pull him off balance. And we invite him to be, but we invite him to be pushing on us so that we can lock and turn, right? And we can capture and we can flow. And the moment he resists on that, we go back the other direction. The moment he resists on that, we pull him back in the other direction. Okay, so many different ways to use the Tai Chi, but most importantly, again, is to learn how to follow your partner. As your partner strikes at you, yield, and you're ready to strike back. Right? As he strikes at you, yield, and you're ready to strike back. So wherever it is that he's striking at you, learn to yield and then be ready to return your partner's force against him. Okay? And uprooting your partner. So whether it's bending a knee, right? Whether it's sweeping the leg out, okay? Or whether again it's pulling, or again any type of resistance that we feel can be set back in the other direction. And right now, as we mentioned, we push through the strike, so that we know that you've penetrated in and that you've gotten your opponent. Because if he yields it and slips it, you didn't get him. Later on, though, we add the power to it, right? Fa qing. So the snapping energy. For now, though, we don't do that in the class, right, with your partner. Too dangerous to be trying to fully hit them. And again, we're just playing with our partner. So called push hands, sticky hands, but again, just playing with each other. So while he goes to throw his strike, you yield. He yields yours. You might follow up with another. He yields that and comes back to attack at you. You yield. And you're both playing with each other, trying to figure out how can you get in to touch your partner in various positions. And he's doing the same, trying to find you, trying to be able to stick to you and come in at you while you're avoiding and yielding out of the way. So he's trying to get strikes in. You're learning how to slip those blows. He's slipping those blows. And that's why we have to follow up a lot of times, because your partner may avoid the first one. So you do wild horse, spreading its mane. Okay, so from, again, pushing and striking, all the movements in Tai Chi, whether it's brushing the knee and pressing, whether it's hands playing the guitar, whether it's reverse flipping elbows, okay, whether it's warding off to one side, rolling back to this side, whether it's pressing on the opponent or pushing, all 24 applications, all 24 postures have an application, a few applications to them to be using in the sticky hand sparring. And as we say too, the Tai Chi sticky hand sparring is the great equalizer, right? Because you take away the speed, you take away the strength. In fact, the more someone uses their strength, the less it works. And the better it works for the other person who is using the Tai Chi principles of not letting more than 4 ounces build up. That's why we don't force through our opponent's defenses. You learn to yield and relax. And just like water, flow around and through, right? And find a new avenue. And don't try to blast your opponent's defenses. So don't let more than 4 ounces build up on you or on them. Right? And that's, again, in your training manual, we have the training notes for the Tai Chi sticky hand sparring. So when you guys get to that aspect in the future, we will, thank you, Sawyer, we will cover more of those aspects. And that is where the Tai Chi really begins to shine. And you can see what its original use was for. The health benefits, again, that come with it. But that's why we say